So, hello. Welcome to another live session. It's great that so many people signed up for this. Let's see how many show up. Last time we had about 30 people here, which is quite a crowd. I had more on TikTok, but hey, it's getting more and more on LinkedIn. So today I picked a topic. Why is Scrum not working? And I asked that question, and I want to answer that question because I'm a big fan of Scrum. I don't think Scrum is the solution for everything. It doesn't work everywhere. It's just one solution. It's a great solution. In many places where it could work, it does not work. And there is something many people miss that I see over and over again. Or there's several things that people miss. And I want to talk about that today. So what are the hidden assumptions and preconditions for doing Scrum? Because people hardly ever look at that. They get into they think they want to be agile, then they turn to maybe Scrum because it's the most common thing out there. When you look for something to hold on to, you don't want to build agility yourself. So you look for a framework, then it's Scrum, and then they see it. It's the same thing on a bigger scale or not the same thing. I don't want to compare the two, but SAFe, the Scaled Agile Framework. It's a different beast, okay? But the way people handle it is pretty similar to how they handle Scrum. They look at it, and in Scrum they see the 3 roles, accountabilities that we call them, to clarify things. They see I need a product owner, a Scrum Master, I need developers. That's it. Then they see, we have to do sprints. The sprints have a certain length. Then we have to have a backlog, where formerly we had, other documents. And that's it. And then they do that stuff. They do it by the book. At least initially. And then they wonder why nothing is changing. Why it's not improving, why things are even deteriorating from there. Why it's even worse than before. Or for some teams, it's just not that big of a change. So why bother with learning all the new stuff and changing roles and all that? And the reason that it doesn't work is because they didn't check the assumptions, the preconditions. It's like that computer game, that new latest AAA game that you buy, and then you didn't check the specs that your machine needs to have. Then you try to run it, and it doesn't run. It crashes, it's slow, it's not fun. So don't complain about the game. You should have read the specs, the preconditions that need to be in place in order to run that game. And a similar thing is true for Scrum. Scrum makes implicit but also very explicit assumptions. Just people choose to ignore them somehow. And yeah, I want to talk about these because ignoring it will lead to very unsatisfactory results. So let's go through a few of them, and please use the chat, use the comments to tell me what I'm missing, or ask questions, or just give me your opinion of what you think, and whether this is actually a problem. So let's start with some of the preconditions that are pretty obvious, that are in the Scrum Guide, in your face. People just ignore that. And the first one, and I'm gonna quote the Scrum Guide here for a second. The Scrum team is a cohesive unit of professionals focused on one objective at a time, the product goal. End quote. So there are many things in there already. So the Scrum team is a cohesive unit. I talked about what a team is in the past. So there are teams out there who aren't really teams. They are just a bunch of people randomly grouped in the same part of the org chart, but they have nothing to do with each other. But what I want to focus on now is this is a unit of professionals. And that's the first assumption and precondition that I see often violated. Because what I see, and please help me with your experience, what you see out there, or what you have seen and experienced. I have seen often that companies assemble a team of juniors or not very experienced people or a not cohesive unit, like random strangers thrown together, not professionals, or juniors wanting to be professionals. And then they slap Scrum onto it, and magically this turns into a high-performing team. And I hate to break the truth, but it doesn't work like that. You cannot take a bunch of people, especially not a group of juniors, of inexperienced people, and then expect Scrum to somehow tell them what to do and make it right and compensate for the missing experience. It doesn't work. And that assumption is often violated for other reasons that are also worth getting into. Before we do that, let me give you a little glimpse into what I also want to talk about. So the professionalism part, we will talk about that in a second. A team of professionals. You cannot take a team of inexperienced people and then just expect Scrum to magically make it right so that they know what they want to do. Because Scrum will not tell you what to do, okay? I have a little story for you that I will play. Maybe we start with that after that overview. The quote also said, and maybe I should have made a slide or something to show you that. Let me see. I can probably just hop into the Scrum guide and show it to you. This should work. Let's see. There we have the Scrum guide, but now I need to zoom way in to show you the thing. Can you see that? Here it is. The Scrum team is a cohesive unit. It is a cohesive unit of professionals focused on one objective at a time. That's the next thing. The one objective at a time. This is often violated. We have these split heads that jump around from team to team, or teams who are tasked with many projects at once, or maybe one project but many different goals, many different things to achieve in that. It's one clear goal at a time. And you cannot have people 20% of their time on that team. Like the team meeting once a week and then thinking, oh, what did we do last week? I literally had that. I had that. Sorry if someone from my last client is missing. I love you all. But that was just so obvious there. There were people meeting once a week for 2 hours to sit together and then think they are a Scrum team. They weren't. They were anything. There were no agility there. So it's one objective at a time. And you have a clear objective. That's also something that is missing. That's one product goal. It's not 2, 3, 50 goals. Okay, I already talked about, and again, apologies if someone is listening and knows which client I'm talking about, because they were there with me. There are companies who want to find that product goal and they call it a North Star. And I'm fine with calling it a North Star. It's wonderful. That's exactly the idea. You have maybe a North Star is more a vision than a goal because you don't want to reach it. It's just for the direction. But if you have 50 North Stars or 21 North Star goals, that doesn't help anyway. It's the purpose of the North Star to help you guide and find a direction is that there is only one. And in one of the last sessions, someone told me that on the Southern Hemisphere, you have the Southern Cross, which is 3 or 4 stars. So Yeah, actually, but it marks one point. It's clear, okay? And you cannot have many different goals. You need a cohesive team, focused on one objective, and you need to have a clear goal as that objective. So that's one thing. I promised you to give you an overview. So these were a few things that we can dive into. And then there is the structure within the Scrum team. The Scrum Guide is very clear here, okay? Within a Scrum team, there are no sub-teams or hierarchies. There are no hierarchies within a Scrum team. And remember, a Scrum team is product owner, Scrum Master, and developers. No hierarchies between them. That is often violated, in my experience. In my experience, often the product owner is the boss or something. Sometimes the Scrum Master. And then we will get into all the cultural preconditions that are not as explicit in the Scrum Guide, where it's about trusting people and self-management. Well, it's not. It's still there is a thing in the Scrum Guide where it says they are also self-managing, meaning they internally decide who does what, when, and how. Okay, it's pretty clear against command and control. The skills, I talked about that already, the skills and resources they have. It's about the environment and how you empower them. We'll get into that towards the later parts of this live session. This is the broader topic where it's about the culture, where it's about how you view other human beings, assuming positive intent, how management works, and that we move away from the scientific management that Taylor initiated more than 100 years ago. And how that works and why we do that and why that yields better results with all the agile companies today, the truly agile companies. So we'll get into this, maybe look at a few examples of scenarios where Scrum is a great fit and scenarios where Scrum is not a great fit. And maybe scenarios where Scrum is not a great fit yet, but with changing the preconditions, you can make it a great fit. Yeah, I think this is what I want to do today. Again, put your questions in the comments, put your suggestions in the comments if I overlooked something. Now, I talked about the professionalism. A Scrum team, you cannot take a junior just as a bunch of juniors. Nothing against juniors. It's great to have a mix of more experienced people and less experienced people so that you can learn, you build that, you pair, you do mob programming, you spread the knowledge, you make the team more resilient by that, by spreading the knowledge. You don't get these expert silos and things like that. It's all agile techniques I don't want to get into today. Okay? If you're interested in that, let me know, and then I can do a session on all these techniques, many techniques from extreme programming. And they don't only work, they do not only work for programming. So they work, in lots of parts. I mean, Tesla uses them for hardware, others use them for service businesses. So even though it's called programming, it's not only about programming. Let me now go back to the first point, that professionalism. Why do we have so many teams with inexperienced team members in them? It's not the fault of the people. Oh, I love juniors who want to learn, who are enthusiastic. But if you just have inexperienced people, whom are they going to learn from? So you need some experts, you need some professionals in there. And the thing that how many companies are set up, and this is a broader thing, this is going beyond Scrum, this is agility in general. And maybe even beyond agility, however you define it. When you have a team with an experienced senior engineer or experienced senior engineers on the team. What happens in a company usually? That senior will seek some recognition for his great work. So she might want to be promoted or just get a raise or somehow get some appreciation for the work she did on the team. And then the problem in many companies is that from a senior engineer level, there is nothing above. You cannot. Your career is at a dead end, at a cul-de-sac. So you cannot move further. The only way to move to keep your career alive and your chances and increase your salary, increase your status and keep future opportunities for your career open, the only chance is, in many companies, to switch tracks to management roles. So you can become a manager. And this is what happens in many companies, that the best engineers are promoted to managers because they were so great engineers. They are promoted to being managers and leading the team. There's nothing wrong with great engineers, experienced engineers leading the team. In fact, it's a good thing. But what we usually do is we promote them to a management role where they need totally different skills. I mean, it's good that they have the engineering skills, but the engineering skills get more in the way than they even help. Because as a manager, they should stay away from micromanaging the team. But with all their technical experience, it's hard to hold back. Okay, and I get that. My formal training is a master in computer science. So I'm a software engineer by heart. If I lead a team, I have the urge to jump in because I understand the stuff. I see when something is, why don't you do it that way? And that's hard as an engineer. If you're not that close to it anymore, it's easier. Especially, not every great engineer has great people skills and great management skills. Some do, some don't. So it's kind of a hit or miss if you promote them to a management level. And you kind of take them out of their waters, their professional waters. And you deprive the team of the expertise, the experience of that person. And then it gets even worse if we do Scrum and that person is promoted to the product owner role because they have the experience, they should lead the team, and they think, this is another misunderstanding of Scrum, that they think the product owner would be the boss of the team, and then they promote them there. And then the coach comes in, a coach like me comes in and tells you the product owner is not supposed to work on the solution, just work on the problem. So the product owner won't define what exactly the solution does and how it's done. Like I just read from the Scrum guide, it's the developers, they decide how they do it and not the product owner. So then this poor engineer, this expert, experienced senior engineer is not allowed to do what they do best, and they are forced to do things they might not want to do. As I said, there are some great engineers with great people management skills, but it's kind of random, hit or miss if you try that. So what happens is, because we don't have a career option, a career path for engineers to move further and to earn more, they are forced to switch to a management role, at which they might be good at, but also might not be good at. And we rob the team of this expertise. It gets even worse when they are good at the team lead role. Because if such an engineer becomes a good team lead, you know what happens? Exactly. They are promoted. They are promoted to the next level. I don't know, department lead, whatever. And this thing is called the Peter principle. The Peter principle. I just Love this because it's so commonplace in companies. The Peter principle states that you are always promoted to the level of least competency. You are promoted to the level where you're most incompetent. And that happens by accident. Because think about it. The engineer was great at engineering. Then he was promoted to a team level. Maybe he's good at the team level, so he's promoted to the department level. Now imagine that person is not good at the department level. What happens? Are they promoted? No. What happens? They stay at the department level. They stay at the position where they are worst at, okay? Where they have the least competency. And that's the Peter principle at work. So you promote people until they are no longer good at the position, and this is where they stay. You don't let them stay at the positions where they were good. You always promote them away from that. And this, in many companies that I've seen over the last 2 decades and more, in Silicon Valley, in Europe, and recently also in Asia and Japan, this leads to the teams being deprived of the great people. Yes, you often have an influx, luckily, of new great people. But once they get the hang of it and they are becoming better, they get promoted away. And that's sad. And there's an easy solution to the problem, to that Peter principle. I mean, the best solution you can have is you don't combine the recognition of someone doing great work with the position they have in the hierarchy. These are different things. You can have an experienced senior engineer on the team making more money than the management level 2 levels higher. That is fine for me. Why don't we do that? If you just have a career path for engineers and you have a career path for managers, or for, managers and leaders are different things. But okay, let's run with management right now. Okay, you have a career path for engineers and one for managers. And the career path for engineers could just go as high. So you could be on the team level doing awesome work and just make more money than all the managers above you. That should be fine. There should be an option to do that. Many companies don't have that option. And so we need to create it. So the job with the HR department mostly, and persuading people. Once you have that, you no longer lose the great engineers, and you no longer have to deal with many inexperienced teams. Now you will have teams with always some very senior people in there who have experience, who have the skills. And then you fulfill one of the preconditions of Scrum. And at that point, I don't even care if you do Scrum, but you just fulfill the preconditions for a great team. Okay. So that was the little deviation over the Peter principle. About the goal, I already talked about that. So Scrum demands one clear goal and focusing on that one goal. In that, Scrum it's also a little similar to what Kanban does and lean production does, where we say, okay, multitasking is not the best thing to do in the world. Yes, we want to parallelize things heavily because that's efficient, but we don't want to have people manically jumping around because you have this switching overhead. You can, let me read the comment, Jeffrey, thank you. With ease as which one can get a CSM or PSM, the certified Scrum Master, professional Scrum Master, the market got flooded with Scrum Masters who do not grasp the competency. Yeah, those Scrum Masters remained in the market and they have not really grown. Yeah, many people have the impression that Scrum is easy and plays well, so why not give it a go? Scrum is not easy, it's simple. It's like chess. The rules are simple, but playing like a master, it's a life's journey, okay? Don't let the simplicity fool you. Exactly. We had that gold rush where many people did that. And I don't say that a Scrum Master needs to have technical expertise. I'm asked very often, does a Scrum Master need to be technical? I'm a technical Scrum Master. I've been in the trenches, I've done the stuff, and I love it that way. But I don't think that I'm a better Scrum Master because of my technical skills. I don't think it matters. In fact, I think sometimes it gets in the way. Just like with the promotion of a senior engineer that I talked about, is as a Scrum Master, my job is coaching. My job is helping the team to help itself. But if I have the technical expertise, I know how to set up the CI/CD pipeline. I know how to write better tests. I know what to do. I have the urge of jumping in and proposing solutions. And that's not the job of a great leader. The job of a great leader is to help the team figure out their own solutions that hopefully someday surprise me. So that's sometimes easier if you don't have that much technical understanding of what they are doing. But so a Scrum Master doesn't have to be technical, but a Scrum Master needs to understand how that all works. A Scrum Master is not someone who knows the Scrum Guide inside out and can recite everything and knows how to use the terms. Yeah, I don't care much about it. Ken, please don't listen. I learned that whole Scrum thing from Ken Schwaber, who's one of the inventors of Scrum, and I think he's very particular on the words, and I'm with him that words are important. I had a great professor at the university who taught me over some time how important words in natural language are, and how to really work with them. Nowadays, we get more at the hang of it. Now that we have AI and go into prompt engineering and stuff, we kind of understand more how important it is to engineer our words. But I don't care if you have the Scrum vocabulary right. I don't care about that. What I care about is that you understand how it works. Scrum doesn't tell people what to do. Scrum doesn't tell the engineers how they should work. They need to know that. The team needs to know how to work. Scrum is just there to... Let me tell you a little story. Let me show you a little story. Let me see if I can pull that up here for you. And then let me see if that works. Not autoplay, present. Oh yeah, seems to work. So let's see if we can do that. Yeah, here, let me tell you a little story about Scrum. So that this is what every Scrum Master should know, and what many do not know or do not really promote. So imagine we have that nice green meadow, okay, green field. It's great, and our projects are grazing here. Our black and white projects, they are happy and alive in our company. And then one project after the other dies. It just fails to meet the budget, the requirements. It fails to wow the customers. It fails to bring the profit. It sometimes just fails to get finished or something. So all our projects die. So what's happening here? We ask ourselves, there must be a problem somewhere, but we have to find it. What's the problem? And then someone like me, Charlie Coach, or Carl the consultant comes in and proposes a solution. Ta-da! Here's your solution. This, by the way, is a nicely pixelated version of a Geiger counter. A Geiger counter is a device to detect radio activity. So it's dangerous if that thing clicks, okay? If you go near a nuclear disaster zone, you better bring one of these, okay? Now, that call the consultant promised us, hey, now we have that detector. It will work. We can survive. We have a chance of surviving. Great. So we'll love it. Thank you for introducing Scrum. Thank you for giving us the Geiger counter. So we slap the Geiger counter onto the back of our project, and then the project dies. Okay? If someone hands you a Geiger counter, please understand that the Geiger counter won't save your life. Okay? Just by having a Geiger counter on you, it doesn't protect you. It doesn't save your life. The Geiger counter won't tell you what to do. It will not tell you in which direction to go or in which direction to run. It will not tell you when to put on your hazmat suit or to bring one in the first place. That's your professional choice. Damn, you have to do it yourself. Don't expect the Geiger counter to save your life. But that happens, and then our client is usually unhappy and says, wow, that Scrum thing sucks. It doesn't work. The Geiger counter doesn't work. It didn't save our lives. The projects die the same way as before. So we can get rid of the Geiger counter. And I already said it. The Geiger counter is one of my metaphors for Scrum. I think it's a morbid. I'm aware it's a morbid one, but I think it's. We need to make a point here, okay? The Geiger counter is like Scrum. If you think about it, there's a lot of text here. Sorry. It does not stop you from doing stupid things. It does not save your life. It does not tell you what to do or what not to do. It does not solve your problems. It only helps to detect problems. That's the only thing it does. The Geiger counter is annoyingly clicking along. Scrum is just annoyingly putting the problems on the table over and over again for you to solve with your professionalism and to do your work with your professionalism. It's just showing you where the stinky stuff is, the radioactive stuff, so that you can solve it or you can make a conscious choice to run in the other direction. But the Geiger counter doesn't do that. It doesn't carry you in the other direction. It doesn't even tell you to run the other direction. You have to decide that on your own. And the sad thing about Scrum is much the same thing. It puts the problems on the table. It doesn't tell you what to do. It doesn't tell you how to work. Don't expect it to tell you something or to solve your problems or to propose anything. It's only there to put the problems, to make you aware of the problems that you didn't see before. Without the Geiger counter, you don't see where there's more radioactivity, where there might be problems. With the Geiger counter now, you can see it. But it's annoying to see problems. I understand that. The Geiger counter clicks and clicks and click. You get this sound, this very annoying sound when you go near a big problem with the Geiger counter, okay? And you know what I see managers do in that case? Sometimes. They say, oh, that Geiger counter, that's so annoyingly clicking. We cannot work. Just silence that thing. And then they dismantle the Geiger counter. They rip out the speaker. And then they say, oh, much better. Now it's not clicking that loud anymore. Let's advance. And then afterwards they complain that the Geiger counter wasn't working or that Scrum wasn't working. Okay. I think the point is clear. If you use Scrum, don't take any parts out of it. It's designed to work that way. If you rip parts out of it, you are very likely going to break the ability of the thing to detect problems. If you rip the retrospective out of Scrum, it's not working anymore. Okay? And Scrum doesn't tell you what to do. Scrum just puts the problems on the table and you have to solve them. This is why you need professionals. Okay? This is why you cannot just slap Scrum onto it. You have to put on the hazmat suit. You have to use that Geiger counter. It's just a problem detection device. Scrum is just a problem detection device. And then when you use it right, you get back to that nice green pasture and you're happily mooing projects. Okay? That was my little story about that. I think it's important. I think that story is important. Or you can tell that story in a different way, but I think the message is important. Oh, I have another comment. I'm going to read it. A common problem is that organizations often implement only parts of Scrum. Exactly. Which can lead to a lack of understanding and commitment to the framework's core principles. Yes, that is very true. And as I said, it's like taking that Geiger counter and then ripping out the speaker to silence it, because it's so annoying when it clicks. And with Scrum, it's so annoying if it reminds you of the problems you have and that you didn't solve them in the last sprint. That it's so much easier to skip retrospectives and just do them whenever we need them, which is never. Than to just stick with it and do retrospectives every sprint and work on the problems and feel the pain of seeing that you're not making progress. Yes, it's ugly to look at the Geiger counter and see that you are now getting a dangerous dose of radiation. But it's better to know that so that you can do something about it than to ignore it. At least that's what I think. Some managers think differently. And I don't want to bash managers, okay? I've been a manager myself, so it's just some of the managers that I've seen out there. So don't dismantle Scrum. Don't dismantle your problem detection device, or it might stop working. And that could be a big problem. Scrum makes that clear, and it sometimes causes confusion that Scrum has that immutability clause that says, okay, please don't pick apart this device. It's very minimalistic already. It's very simple. Scrum is already very, very, very reduced. And that in itself should already give you a clue that it won't replace professionals on the team and your professional expertise. It cannot tell you how to work and what to do. You have to do that. The team has to do that. But with all that minimalist stuff, you cannot take more out or it will not work. If you rip out the speaker, if you cover the display of the Geiger counter, it's not... Don't blame it if it doesn't work, okay? So, the preconditions or assumptions of Scrum. The next one I want to tackle is the clarity and objectives. And by the way, I have I will compile all that into an article on my Agile Compass. So if you're interested in that, you can, or if you're not already on there, you can always go to the Agile Compass and sign up. And then you get all the stuff. It's free. There's also a paid version where you get more. But hey, start with the free stuff. Evaluate it, see if you like it before you do anything else. So I will have an article going out. So if you sign up, I think it goes out Thursday. So if you sign up now, you should get it right away. So clarity and objectives is the next thing. This is This is twofold. This is, first of all, it's the multitasking thing, and then it's the having unclear goals. What is a common disease is that we still think in Taylorism, in scientific management. If you're interested in what that is, let me know and I will do a session, like a little history session of where all the management we have today comes from. And why it doesn't work, especially not today. Back then was different times. Parts of that worked, other parts didn't work from the start, but you could ignore it back then because the world was moving slower. It was not as interconnected. So the problem is that in scientific management, the idea is that the manager thinks and the worker executes. Manager thinks, makes the plan, tells the worker what to do, and the worker, wow, I like these little gestures. And then the worker just executes. And that kind of works for physical labor, where today we would use robots. Dumb robots, I shall say, because now we have also intelligent robots who can learn, okay, with AI. But just dumb robots that you can program. And humans back then were kind of like dumb robots. They were also treated like that. They were treated in a way that was pretty similar to machines. This is also, I think, where our current names like human resources comes from. I mean, it's horrible. Resources. These are machines or money or something. It thinks. And then we call it human resources, which is insane. There's so many people have gotten upset over that term. It's people. It's humans. It's not resources. But you see where that comes from. People were treated like resources. They were just dumb, stupid. That was the assumption. Or yeah, that's the assumption behind it. That's actually the view of the human being. People are lazy and stupid, and it's okay because we move the thinking and planning to the management. And that totally breaks in knowledge work. That already breaks in physical work, I think, but it very obviously breaks in knowledge work. Knowledge work is work that we do with our brains. It's sitting at desks. Not using our muscles to do the work, but using our brains. Creativity, thinking, critical problem-solving skills, all that. And most of us actually do this kind of work. Some do it combined with physical labor. So if you're at the factory floor at Tesla, for example, you are most likely a knowledge worker also doing physical work. But you're not there just for your physical work because they have robots for that. So almost everyone is a knowledge worker. And in that, you cannot split someone else thinking and planning and the other person executing if it's knowledge work. It doesn't make sense. It breaks. Or at the very least, it's very inefficient. So this is where McGregor came up with the management theory X and management theory Y. I don't want to go into the details today because it's going to make the session too long. But the thing is that these knowledge workers, I think McGregor was targeting creative people, specifically. It's better for them if they manage themselves because it's not physical labor. And if you kind of try to manage these people from the outside, you kind of get reverse results. The more tightly you manage them, the worse they perform. And so you have to have a different management style for these people. And today, frankly, I would say we know that there is no place for the management style X, which is command and control and telling people what to do and thinking they are stupid and lazy. We are all people who need to be managed with management type Y in Gregor's sense. Management Y, not X, but Y, which acknowledges our intrinsic motivation and says, okay, you have to decide what to do. You're self-managing. And the way to manage you is more to guide you, to serve you, a servant leadership, to give you the resources, to coach you, to ask you where I can help you, where you need help, but then to leave you alone to do the work. And this is also the assumption for Scrum teams. It comes from software, which is also knowledge work. And you let the team self-manage. And to get back to the clarity of the objectives and the goals, the problem is that many companies still have that management thinks, worker executes thinking. So the management comes up with the goals, with the objectives, what we need to do, with the strategy, and with the goals generally. And then they think, okay, what we do is not tell the worker the goals, because hey, they are workers. They will not understand, or they don't need to know. This is often what I hear. The people on the team, they don't need the business data and they don't need to know where we're going. We just need to tell them what to expect next as a milestone. And then what they do is they take their goal, break it down into smaller goals. They have this goal hierarchy. And then one of these tiny partial goals is then passed to the team to do. The team has no connection of whatsoever, how that serves the customer, what that actually does, if that's more important than the other goal that the other team has, because you need something from the other team and they complain because they have their goal and you have your goal and you're clashing because they don't deliver what you need. They are blocking you, you are blocking them. And then you get these dependency discussions between departments. I've had all that. And it's just because they don't know the clear goal priorities. Because no one would tell them. And if you ask the level above, they also don't know. And sometimes you find out that some of the goals are just made up by certain departments. They weren't even a strategic goal. Crazy things like that. And when you get to the really high level, I sometimes find out that they themselves don't even clearly know what their goal means and what they want from it. They cannot agree. Like if you have a management board, if you have a management team, they sometimes don't agree. If you let them talk about it and you force them to put it on the table, what they think they want to do, you can get serious fights. And these people can scream and fight. Okay? And it's healthy to do that, to put it on the table and to find out, oh, there is a problem. So the goal is often not clear. We have too many goals and we don't have a clear goal hierarchy and we don't communicate the goal to the teams. And with all that, we then blame the teams to not deliver. Yeah. So a very important precondition to doing Scrum, not only Scrum, but let's stick with Scrum here. A precondition is you are clear on what your goal is. You have that goal. You communicate that goal. It's not only that you have the goal and put it in your drawer, or that you talked about the goal at one of the all hands meetings. That's not enough. You have to make sure that everyone understands that goal and is in line with it. That's a leadership job. Okay? You communicate that. And if you have several goals going on, which usually is the case in large corporations. Lately, I've been unlucky to work only with global corporations who have many things going on in parallel. If you have that, I might not like it, but if you have that, at least have a clear hierarchy. We force product owners to prioritize their backlog. How about forcing top management to prioritize their portfolio? I like to do that. And I like to see the blank stares and the rage building when I ask for that, because they know they have not figured out the priorities. But once you start that and you have a clear prioritization on top, then all the fights you have between the teams with dependencies and all the resource bottlenecks and all that stuff, it vanishes. Because you can just trace it up, the hierarchy, the goal hierarchy, and then you can just make a decision. Okay, this one is higher than this one, so you team, you have to wait and you have to deliver for the you get your thing from the other team. That's it. Even better, just have one clear goal. And then make sure everyone on your teams, in the whole company understands the goal, and then let them figure out how to reach that goal. Don't break it down. You can help. You can offer support from a leadership perspective, but let them break it down, which also helps with clarity and which also helps with motivation and which it helps with so many things. So have clear goals, and then it's easier in Scrum to actually have a product goal. If you don't have a product goal, you don't have Scrum. So have a product goal, and then you also have sprint goals. How many teams have I seen who struggle with sprint goals? Because they say, how can we come up with the sprint goal? It's so difficult. We don't have one. Yeah, that's a symptom, a sign that somewhere else something is broken. You don't have clear goals, or you don't have clear focus, or you have neither. So that's a precondition to doing Scrum. Have a clear goal and be able to communicate that. Don't do too much in parallel. Oh, I see so many more comments here, but I don't see them on my screen. Sorry if I missed something. What do I see here? A common problem is that organizations often implement only parts of Scrum, which can lead to a lack of understanding. I already saw that, right? That's important. Thank you, by the way, for the comments. That helps me a lot to know that you're actually there and the tech is working. Because, these live sessions, I'm talking to a screen, and it's great. I have a control monitor here to see what you see, but getting feedback and signals that everything is alive and kicking is great. So thank you for that. Again, if you have any questions, ask them. Also, don't hesitate to get in contact with me, please. I love to get messages on LinkedIn or send me an email. If you're on the Agile Compass, you can actually just send me emails through that address and get further with that. So please do it. Get on the Agile Compass, and I think I even have a. Wait, let me check. I think I even have. Yes. I created a QR code. So you can, but you will find it on my LinkedIn profile anyway. So you're smart. The next thing, the substructure of the team, the inner structure. This is also what I've seen often, is that there is a hierarchy within the Scrum team. And the Scrum Guide explicitly says, within a Scrum team, and I quote, within a Scrum team, there are no hierarchies. That's verbatim in the Scrum Guide. So there are no hierarchies between product owner, Scrum Master, and developers. Yet what I often see in practice is that either the product owner or the Scrum Master is a superior of the developers. Sometimes, luckily, not a direct superior, not that they need to report to them, but still, they are often on a higher hierarchical level. And this makes things difficult. I mean, if we just think about the distribution of, let's call it project management tasks that we still have to do, like estimating or projecting timelines and stuff like that. This is what the developers do. But if my boss is the product owner, and the boss says, well, are you really sure that it's really an 8 story point story is another 5. Are you sure you cannot take on one more story? Are you sure you want to do it? I'm not gonna object. I mean, I might object, but then it might hurt my career. Okay, so don't have hierarchies within the Scrum team. The product owner is not higher than the developers. They are on equal footing. They just have different roles or different accountabilities, as the Scrum guide calls them now. The product owner focuses more on the understanding of the business model, the customer needs, maybe does a lot of the communication with the customer, not all of it, but puts people in contact if needed. And the developers focus more on finding the solutions and figuring out how they could do things, how long it would take, when they could deliver what. So you're working together on a team, but it's not a hierarchical relationship. And again, to what I said earlier, why should a product owner be paid more than a developer? This is just an accountability. So there might be product owners who are experienced and deserve to be paid more. There might be very senior developers who deserve to be paid way more than any product owner or any maybe hierarchies outside of the Scrum team. So the best Scrum teams are those where you cannot identify a hierarchy, that don't have a hierarchy. I fully understand where this comes from, the problem that product owners are often the boss of the team. It comes from how we land at a Scrum team, the transition, the transformation, we call it. This is, or it's not a transformation in that case, actually. There is the traditional Tayloristic hierarchy. And very agile companies usually have flat hierarchies, if hierarchies at all. Okay, they usually don't have any. At least you don't feel them. But many companies have that. So you had a team lead before, or sometimes a project manager, or someone who managed the things, who had the responsibility and accountability for that thing. And then the rest was under that. And now, when we transition to Scrum, we have to, where do we move our project managers or our team managers? Where do we put them? We cannot just put them on the team level. It would just be like degrading them, or how do you call that? If you, in the military, if you de-rank them, and that wouldn't feel right, okay? Because they don't deserve punishment. They did nothing wrong. Now we're just moving to Scrum, so they cannot be punished. So they need to have at least a role that resembles their old manager role, their project manager or team manager role. So we look, or the companies look at Scrum, and then they see, developers. Developers, that cannot be a role for them because it's many people, okay? But Scrum Master, product owner. Okay, let's make them one of these because it sounds like one of them is the boss. And then what happens is you have a Scrum team with that hierarchy built in, and even if you would take away the hierarchy then and say, okay, there is no hierarchy, the hierarchy is still felt. Okay, if that person was your boss for the last 2 years and suddenly they call themselves product owner, you don't exactly just erase all that hierarchical behavior. It's still there. There are, in practice, when I do agile transformations, there are several techniques how we can deal with that on many levels, like cross using people from different parts of the hierarchy and then slowly working our way. So there are techniques. If you're interested in really deep techniques like that, then I can recommend you this is my masterclass. The masterclass, this is a 6-month masterclass. Don't worry, it's 6 months because you can do it in parallel with your regular job. It's just evening sessions and an occasional weekend session. So this is why it takes so long. But it also gives you time to really transform yourself as a Scrum Master, as a coach, as a leader. And there we have enough time to teach all the techniques, to practice them, and to really transform ourselves into a really great agile coach or leader. And one technique is getting this cross hierarchy thing to kind of try to resolve that. But the important point to understand is there are no sub-teams or bosses inside a Scrum team. And this is often violated. This is an assumption often violated. Then the next point I want to talk about is this quote from the Scrum Guide. Where do I have it? I can find it, so I'm just going to read it to you. They are also self-managing, meaning they internally decide who does what, when, and how. End quote. So with in that case, it's a development team. It's a development team. I have to check. No, I think it's a Scrum team, not the developers. I think it's a Scrum team. So the thing is the self-management part here. So a team is self-managing. It's not compatible with command and control. If you have command and control, even if you don't do micromanaging, but you have command and control, it's not compatible with Scrum. It's hard to do that. You have to trust people in order to do Scrum. I'm well aware that trust is earned, so it doesn't fall from the sky, just like that. But you need to trust people. And that's an important change. That's for me, is the most important part of an agile transformation. To build that new view of the human being so that we can trust. And I talked about the management theory X and Y, like the view of the human being that's behind the McGregor different models, the two management styles. And the one style, the X style, has a view of the human being that goes like this. People have biological urges. This is what they will do. Eat, sleep, reproduce, whatever. Okay? Everything else is waste of energy, and people will avoid that by nature, by evolution. They will try to stay away from that. So if you want them to do work, which is not connected to any of their primal instincts, if you want them to do work, then you need to incentivize them. Incentivizing, this is carrots and sticks. Okay? You can promise them something as a reward for doing something. Or you can threaten to punish them. It works the same way. We like to think about the reward side, but hey, punishment is also in there. So if you're not getting promoted, that might also be seen as a punishment. Or we dangle bonuses. We have individual bonuses. It's the worst thing you can do is individual bonuses. It's horrible. So many people understand that in the Agile community. I think Beyond Budgeting is also very anti individual bonuses. Anybody with some sense is, because it doesn't work. What individual bonuses does is, let me name a few companies. Boeing, Enron, Volkswagen, diesel scandal. This is individual bonus land, okay? This is what happens. These are the worst cases, but individual bonuses don't work. I have an article, if you go to to my Agile Compass, I have an article also there about this and intrinsic, extrinsic motivation. Where is it? Here is something about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation and why that whole crap doesn't work. Okay, it's important to understand. But the view of the human being of the management model X, which comes from the Industrial Revolution times, from Taylorism and scientific management, is that people are inherently lazy. They try to avoid work. They try to do as little work as possible. And if you want them to do better work or more work, you need to promise them a bonus. I don't know, traveling first class, getting a car, having a higher status or something. You need to promise them something, or you need to threaten them. It's either way. This is the understanding. So if you wouldn't do that, people wouldn't work hard. Whereas the other model, management theory Y, says, no, there is something we call intrinsic motivation. This is motivation that doesn't come from carrots and sticks. It's motivation inside people. It's already there. People already have that drive in them. All you need to do is to not inhibit that drive. There is also that important saying that we should all keep in mind, that you cannot motivate people. You cannot motivate people. You can only demotivate people. Okay? You can only take away their inner motivation. So the best thing you can do is stop demotivating people. Remove demotivators. And you know what one important part of that intrinsic motivation is? It's there's a wonderful book from Dan Pink, Drive. Most of you, or many of you, probably know it. It's wonderful. And an important part that book describes of the intrinsic motivation is autonomy. Autonomy. That means being in control of our own life. Being able to decide. Not having someone else tell us what to do. You don't have autonomy if someone locks you in a cell and restricts your movement. You don't have autonomy over your movement. If someone tells you what to work on, you don't have autonomy over what to work on. If someone puts you on a team and you don't like the people there, you don't have autonomy over whom you work with. If someone tells you how to do your work, the exact steps, what we call micromanagement, it's taking away your autonomy. You don't have autonomy over how you do the work. You can't even exert your own professionalism. So, traditional companies often restrict autonomy and by that destroy intrinsic motivation. They need just stop that. And then things could already improve. So a self-managing team, you give them their autonomy back. You let them decide who does what, when, and how. It's that simple. But for that, you need to trust them. You need to change your view of the human being. You cannot assume that people are trying to avoid work and are lazy by nature. You need to assume that people have that inner drive and they want to create great stuff. Even if you don't promise them a bonus, even if you don't threaten them, even if you don't run after them and control everything and check that they are doing it right. Even then, especially then, they will do great work. And that shift in the view of the human being, generating that trust, this is the huge undertaking of any agile transformation. Because once you got that, then everything else falls into place. That's the culture. That's often called the mindset. I don't like the lofty term mindset. It's just too overused and too hollow. It's not filled with terms, but there are specific things you can do to build that trust. If you also look to the wonderful book by Patrick Lencioni, where he lists the 5 dysfunctions of a team. The first one is lack of trust. This is a problem. Lack of trust is a big problem. And if you look at the two biggest reasons why global teams fail, it's lack of trust and it's bad communication. So building that trust is essential. And for that, we need to change the view of the human being. We need to acknowledge that people want to do great stuff, even if you don't incentivize or force them. And that's a pretty big shift for some managers. It's not only a shift for the managers. I don't blame them. Okay, they are grown up like that. They built their whole careers onto that system. They don't know anything else. They've seen it work in the past. So of course they're reluctant. And it's just pure psychology. It's ingrained habits. Once you learned habits, even if those habits don't serve you anymore in a new context, you still continue doing the habits. That's just pure psychology. That's the same reason why people can't quit smoking or eat unhealthy or something. And there are techniques that you can do. I don't know, Jens, are you in your audience? A great agile coach and psychology expert. He coached Olympic athletes and CEOs and whatnot. He knows how to change these habits. And it's not by just saying, oh, this is bad, stop it. Because this is blaming yourself. There are more elaborate techniques to actually help you change behavior. Because I know of little people who quit smoking because they just said, oh, it's bad. Oh, now I'm going to stop. Some can do that, most not. Okay. But Jens, as a psychologist, he can kind of like get almost everybody to stop smoking. It's just how you approach it. It's the coaching part. And I've adopted that for my coaching practice, to work like that with managers, with leaders in companies, to overcome their old habits. So it's not only that they don't understand, it's also ingrained in their behavior. It's a psychological thing, which is okay, because we have these great techniques. We have these great studies and revelations that we know how to do it. We just have to learn it. And by the way, the psychology part is also part of the Agile Coach Education program, if you want to do that. Jens is in there. So with all his expertise and with all that he can do, and he can do something. So if you are smoking, maybe he can even just help you quit smoking along the way with the Agile Coach program. Or something else, I don't know, habits that you want to stop doing. So he will do exercises with you. Don't worry, it's all... It only works if you are consenting. And he will practice these techniques with you so that you can help leaders and managers and frankly everybody to cope with these old destructive habits. So that's nice. I always love the sessions with Jens, and I always learn a bunch with them. So then we can move to a culture of trust and can really let the team self-manage. It's that fear of letting go that's sometimes a problem. Okay, that fear of losing control. And for me, the feeling I have, how I empathize with leaders and managers, is when I'm not a great surfer, but I love to do it anyway. Okay, when I'm out there paddling into a wave, or skiing is a similar thing. At a certain point, you have to let go. You have to accept that you're not in tight control. If you're trying to control everything, every movement, it's not going to work. You're going to nosedive down and get washed. But once you let go, you arrive on a different level of control. You have to trust the thing, and you have to let go of that control to gain more control, to gain the real control and ride the wave. And that's kind of what it feels to me for managers having to overcome that and letting go. It's not easy. It's not easy. You need practice and you need skilled people who can help you through it. And then it's not only in the logical brain of the managers and in the habits of the managers, but it's also in the system. This is what great people always teach us. Fix the system, not the people. So we have to work with the people while we fix the system because they fear that changing the system does something to them. So we have to help them. But it's ultimately fixing the system. Because these old views of the human being as lazy and needing to be controlled are ingrained in the structure, in the organizational structure, in the process structure of a company, in the incentive systems, in the bonus systems, in the promotion systems, in the hierarchy, in everything. It's in there, and we need to work to remove that. And at the same time, we need to control the fears of all the managers who scream, "Oh, I'm going to lose control. It's anarchy. Oh my God." And again, I empathize with these people. I don't want to make fun of them. I've been in these situations myself. We all know that, how hard it sometimes is to let go of behavior that doesn't serve us well anymore, or with the fear that it might break or it might not work. And we have to trust the thing, the process, the person, the coach. It's hard. So I have a lot of empathy for them. I also had my share of startups failing, most of them failing, which I here is a usual founder story. So I know that the pain, you feel the pain differently if it's when it's your baby, your money. Okay. So this is, it's that shift in the view of the human being. That's the thing. And then you can have self-managing teams because you can trust them. And then the magic happens. Then you get these crazy effectiveness and efficiency boosts that agile companies show. I mean, if you look at any agile company compared to an average competitor, it's insane, the scale and the innovation, the creativeness, just the value they create. So self-management and trust, but it's hard to get there. So this is why we need the psychological skills to get there. This is why we need to understand how to change the system and how to do that in a way, step by step, that the fear is not too big so that people shut off and say, "Oh, I don't want that." First thing is probably to tell people what agility actually is before you start. So, next point, and maybe, how long have we been doing this thing? Yeah, I need to wrap up maybe in 20 minutes or something. Skills, we already talked about that. The skills and resources. Of course, we have cross-functional teams. You can't have a team of only testers or something. That's not a Scrum team, okay? You cannot expect that to work, but I think this is pretty obvious. Still, I see companies over and over again, last year, this year, to have Scrum teams where there are developers, then there's another team is the test team, and then they have separate teams who define the requirements. It's crazy. This has nothing to do, even if you call it Scrum team, and even if you do sprints, it has nothing to do with Scrum. This just has to be a cross-functional team that has the capability to deliver something end to end. Or at least something that is a working product that you can test and get feedback on. If you just have a team writing requirements and specs and user stories, you cannot get feedback on that from the customer. If Tesla would present me their backlog, I would laugh or run away, but I wouldn't buy a product from them. Okay, even they themselves couldn't test it. But if they built a seat and I could sit and I could say, wow, this feels comfy, or they could do it and could see, oh, it breaks because we forgot something here, it's not stable. This is how you test it. This is how they actually do it. I mean, they don't do Scrum because they are much too fast for Scrum. But you get the principle, okay? This is how they work. Same idea. Yeah, and then we need the professionals on the team. I already talked about the organizational culture that I want to move to the next big block. So we looked at what we demand from the Scrum team directly, from the inner structure of the Scrum team, and now let's widen the view to the organization. We already did. Let's go over this and see what else we have. So no micromanagement. You have to have a culture where you trust people, where you assume positive intent. Kimberly, a friend of mine from a great leadership coach from Silicon Valley, she always calls it assuming positive intent, API, which is nice because it's usually the programming interface, but API, assume positive intent in everything people do. Trust them that they have good intentions, even if it doesn't look that way. And I also, on the Agile Compass, I also have an article that I found interesting about soccer and goalkeepers, football. And this is about assuming positive intent, because there was one study that analyzed what's the best strategy for a goalkeeper during a penalty kick. And the striker, it's just the striker and the goalkeeper, and they have to score a goal. And what's the best opportunity for the goalkeeper? Is it to, I don't know, will the ball land in the middle? Will it in the corner, on the bottom, on the top, or something? What's the best strategy? And they analyzed that statistically. And statistically, you know what the best strategy for a goalkeeper would be? To stand in the middle. Just don't move. Don't move. Just stay there. You have the highest chance of catching the ball or deflecting it. But no goalkeeper in the world does that, or hardly anyone. I think the study said that 93% of the goalkeepers dive left or right. So only 7% stay in the middle. Despite 40%, is it 40? 40%, I think, of the shots going to the middle. So you have the high, and only 30% in each corner. So the best chance to catch the ball is standing in the middle. But the goalkeepers don't do that. Why? Are they stupid? Certainly not. They are not stupid. But just imagine this, and this is about assuming positive intent and the view of the human being. Imagine the goalkeeper stands in the middle, and the striker, the striker scores. The ball sails left or right into the net, and the goalkeeper was just standing in the middle doing nothing. What do you think the teammates and the fans and the coach will say? They will scream at that guy. Are you stupid? Are you not motivated? It seems you're not motivated to do, or maybe you're too slow and too old and we cannot use you here. Or maybe you want to sabotage us, but why didn't you jump and dive into the corner to try to catch the ball? At least try to catch it. This is the reaction of most people and in most companies. This is not assuming positive intent. This is assuming that this behavior of the goalkeeper was because of laziness, because of not being motivated, because of not being capable, anything. So what does a good goalkeeper do to save their career so that they can remain on the team and maybe the talent scout says, wow, this is a cool guy? What do? They dive. They perfectly know that it's the worst option, but they do it because now, imagine this scenario. Same scenario, the striker scores. But this time the goalkeeper jumped into a corner, the striker hit right in the middle. Objectively the same outcome, but subjectively for all the people there, the goalkeeper made an effort. He showed that he's motivated. He showed that he's capable. He really wanted to do it. He tried, but hey, it's so hard to catch that ball. So he looked like he would do great work, while he actually did worse than if he just remained in the middle. And the only reason why he cannot stand still in the middle is the assumption of other people. The assumption other people have about his motivation, his capability, because of his behavior. Now imagine a scenario, and good teams have that. This is why great teams have that. In a great team, same situation, goalkeeper stands in the middle, the striker scores left or right, ball sails past the goalkeeper didn't move. Now, in a team, assuming positive intent, assuming the goalkeeper does his best and is motivated to do the best for the team, they go there, they congratulate him. They say, hey, you picked the best option. Probably you picked the best option, but we know you did your best. Congratulations. Good job. Now, let's continue playing. This is how assuming positive intent in API works. And you know what that leads to? When the goalkeeper knows that the others are assuming positive intent, are trusting them, they can make the better choice. And they can remain in the middle more often than just 7% of the time. They can remain in the middle more often. They will likely improve the success rate of the team overall. It might not look like they do an effort, but they actually do, because they don't have to worry about the perception of their behavior. And this is happening in teams as well, in every company. We often care more about appearing motivated and busy than actually delivering value. In Scrum teams, this can lead to engineers, when they talk about different ways to implement a feature, they don't go for the most simple implementation, because they say, but let's make it more. It looks like you try to avoid work if you go for the very simple solution. So we go for the little more elaborate solution. We sit longer hours. We don't go home early because we know it looks bad. We stay there till later, even though we know our productivity suffers, even though we know we already delivered the value, just to look motivated and look good. Because we know the assumptions of other people are that we are lazy. So we have to disprove that. But in a company and in an environment where we have that new view of the human being, or new, it's not new, but it's not as common as I would like it to be. Okay, it's where we assume positive intent in people. And if someone goes home early, we don't assume they are lazy. We assume it's okay, it's the best choice they could make now because maybe they are not productive anymore. Or if they make a mistake, we assume they tried their best and they put their best effort in it. It's not because they're stupid, lazy, or careless. They tried something. We congratulate people on mistakes often because we say, hey, you tried something new. You tried to push the limits. If you don't try to push the limits, you don't make mistakes. But then you're not innovative. It happens to many companies. So in an environment where we have that API, where we have that view of the human being, there we can deliver high performance. We don't have to mess with all the show stuff, all that. So this is why the environment is very important for Scrum and for any agile or high performing team, frankly. Let me point out that it might sound that you have to do all that before you start actually considering Scrum for a team. This is not how I want this to be understood. I just want companies who try to use Scrum and try to implement it to be aware of the preconditions, the assumptions that Scrum makes, and the mechanics, how it works. You don't have to have everything in place when you start with Scrum. You can start with Scrum right away, even if that's not in place. It's just important that you understand that Scrum will only fully work once you deliver these preconditions. So you have to make a commitment to work on them in parallel to learning Scrum, okay? This is the only thing I demand. I don't demand that to be there before you start. Just be aware of it and make a commitment to move in that direction. Because if you completely ignore it, then we end up with these zombie fake Scrums, Scrum falls, whatever you call them. These things that don't work but carry the Scrum terms. One objective thing that we might not be able to change as an assumption of Scrum is that the work is plannable. This is the example here that you could give is Scrum is for product development. It's not project, it's product. It's for read from project to product if you there's a lot of great literature out there. And many other people who talk about that. So building a new product, this is typical, this is great for Scrum. You know, you have a hypothesis, for example, you want to do something, you think this could work, but you cannot just ask the customer, you need to put it under their fingers and see how they use it, get some feedback. And maybe you also need some feedback whether it technically works. And you plan that, then you get the feedback session, then you adjust your plan, get the next feedback session, adjust your plan. And this is how you iterate towards creating more customer value and being better in building the product. If, however, you have a team of, let's say, you have a customer support team, maybe also with developers in there, but a customer support team, then you cannot predict what will happen tomorrow or in 2 days. I mean, you cannot predict the future anyway, but you will be hard pressed to say, okay, in 2 days, customer XYZ is going to call with exactly that problem. It doesn't work like that, okay? You have to be reactive. You cannot plan 2 weeks ahead or a week ahead. You cannot make a sprint backlog. The only thing you could do is make a sprint backlog with placeholders. Like, okay, this is when I do customer support, this is when I write documentation. But this is very coarse-grained and not really what Scrum was made for. So in these cases, when you cannot plan a week ahead what you do roughly in the next week, what you want to focus on, then Scrum might just not be the best fit. And that's okay. Many teams go to Kanban in that case. They use Kanban, which is more flexible in how you can implement it. And you can then also deal with like customer requests, bug reports coming in and all that stuff that you cannot plan. And that's just situational. It depends on your situation, what you have. Sometimes it's okay in a Scrum team that builds a new product to have bug fixes and customer support maybe in there, but it's in practice you will figure it out. You will see when Scrum is a good fit or when not. Usually, when you cannot plan the work a week or 2 weeks ahead of time, roughly, then Scrum is not a good fit. Then you should choose something else. Yeah, and what do we have here? The last one. Another thing is when we really go big on the organizational level, and I talked about goals already, that you need to have clear goals. One thing that I have repeatedly seen trip companies off that try to do an agile transformation is, now I have a massive drop in people. So many people dropped off. I don't know what happened. Was there a technical glitch? Was I saying something strange? Or was it just too long now? Let me know. Please give me some feedback, because I would like to know. I saw there's 70 people on there last time I checked, and now it's 12. Let me know if something happened, if I messed up, if the technology messed up. I would just like to know. It seems strange. Maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe I'm just talking too much. Or maybe I delivered the most important points, which is also okay. A big point that is worth its own live session, I will do that another day, is budgeting. Budgeting. That is tripping up so many agile transformations. Because budgeting is the ultimate command and control tool in many companies. Budgeting in itself is not necessarily bad, but how it is done is bad. It's tied to arbitrary cycles like calendar years or quarters. It mangles so many things in there. Budgeting is for resource allocation, it's for prediction, it's for planning, it's for evaluating people and performance, it's for controlling. So when you untangle that, then you get into a territory where it's much easier. Because if you have yearly annual budgeting based on costs, then you force the team to plan a year ahead in detail to be granted that budget. And then they have to use up the budget. And they also are evaluated against the plan, actual versus planned. And that restricts their movement when they see feedback from the customer side and they want to change the plan. And then it just cascades down. And this is why budgeting is a big thing. But I don't want to go into the details of budgeting today. This is another session. If you want to hear a whole session on that, let me know. Just send me a message and let me know. Then I can do sessions on that. By the way, just send me any topic requests. I'm happy to talk about things you are really interested in and not just things I find interesting. So I can deliver more value. And with that, and with a full drop of 70 people or 60 people who dropped out, I might just come to a close with that, because I see also I have to call it a day. So I think I talked about the most or many of the important things. And to sum it up, there are preconditions, assumptions that Scrum makes. And if these are not in place, or at least you make a commitment to put them in place in parallel to your Scrum efforts, then Scrum cannot deliver the results. Oh, I hope you hear my son practicing drums in the background. So be aware of these assumptions. Some of them are explicitly mentioned in the Scrum Guide. I quoted them. Others are more implicit or are general for any high-performing or at least agile team. So be aware of them. Work to create them in parallel to doing Scrum. Because if you don't, then Scrum can end up being just a theater, not delivering the results you hoped it would deliver. Okay, with that, I thank you all of the people who stayed, listened to this. I'm so happy that so many people are interested in that and they can help with the experience I have over the decades and continents with this stuff. Let me know what I should talk about next time. And if you like, I would love to have you on the free Agile Compass newsletter. And as I said, there's going to be an article going out this Thursday about exactly that topic so that you can read through it again. You have it in written format, and maybe some of the parts that we didn't talk about today. And with that, let's see each other in the next live session. And I wish you a happy rest of the day, wherever you are. Stay strong, keep the world agile. Let's make this world a better place. Goodbye.